Hello and welcome to the Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025 edition of the SANS Internet Storm Center's Stormcast. My name is Johannes Ulrich, and this episode brought to you by the SANS.edu graduate certificate program in Industrial Control Systems Security is recorded in Jacksonville, Florida. Well, in diaries today, Xavier came across an interesting malware sample that takes advantage of SSH on Windows. That's something we have seen for years and years in Linux. Linux, of course, always had SSH as one of its standard components, typically pre-installed. Now, Windows started doing this a couple of years ago, and now pretty much any new Windows system that you are using has an SSH client at least pre-installed. Now, the SSH client, of course, does not listen on any port by default. That's exactly sort of what that malware takes care of. It does deploy a simple SSH client configuration file that will basically instruct the system, the SSH client, to connect to a particular command control server and then forward connections from that command control server to an internal listening port. As Xavier points out, this configuration file is actually not 100% syntactically correct, so it probably doesn't work quite the way it was deployed here. The particular command control server, yes, it's no longer listening. I would just want to point out that they're using SSH over port 443. Of course, that's supposed to better blend in with common network traffic. However, if you do have any kind of network monitoring system, that should really raise a flag if you all of a sudden have SSH over port 443. That's a pretty simple and straightforward detection. Pretty much all the network monitoring systems will tell you about this. So definitely something to take care of and make sure that you're able to detect a backdoor like this, not just for Linux, but also for Windows. Well, and then we have more problems with certificate authorities. Google announced that they will stop trusting two certificate authorities, Chunghwa Telecom and Netlock. Chunghwa Telecom is with a Chinese telecom company, Netlock associated with a Hungarian company. Now, similar action is also pending in the larger certificate authority browser forum, so this may in the near future also affect other browsers. As far as Google Chrome is concerned, Google Chrome will stop trusting certificates being issued by these two certificate authorities as of July 31st. So any certificate issued after that date will not be trusted. If your certificate is issued now, it will still be trusted until it expires. So you don't have to do anything immediately now. But yes, definitely, find a different certificate authority if you want to still your certificates to be trusted. I looked a little bit into, what the reason is behind that. For Chunghwa, apparently they didn't observe the CAA DNS record. That's a DNS record where you are indicating which certificate authorities are able to actually issue certificates on the behalf of your domain. And during some cutover, they didn't check that properly. And then they also didn't revoke affected certificates in a timely manner. If you remember, there was Let's Encrypt had a similar issue, but they ended up revoking millions and millions of certificates as a result. Here, the revocation really was the problem, that it didn't properly respond to that incident. For Netlock, it's actually a little bit more problematic. They did issue signing certificates, so intermediate certificates that could be used to sign other certificates on Netlock's behalf, and they didn't disclose that they actually issued those signing certificates. So then related certificates didn't show up in sort of a transparency logs and the like. And that, of course, could then allow a larger sort of machine in the middle attack, which is certainly a important concern here. And again, that's why they get kicked out. And also they didn't really respond in any timely manner to these issues. Neither of these certificates authorities, I think, has a large user base, so the impact should be minimal. But again, double check what certificates you're using, if any of them are being signed by these certificate authorities, or if any of your vendors are using this certificate authority. That can be a problem if, for example, automatic update processes and such are failing because you no longer trust these certificates. If you, for example, connect to some vendor's web server to pull in updates. Well, then we got a critical update from Qualcomm for their Adreno graphics processing units, or the GPU. This particular driver is mostly used on Android, so that's where you have to watch out for this patch. And, well, it is already being exploited. It's a privilege escalation vulnerability, but given it's already being exploited, you definitely should try to apply related updates as soon as possible. Of course, it's part of that Android ecosystem, so you pretty much have to wait for an Android update for your particular device that will include this patch. Well, and that's it for today, so thanks for listening, and talk to you again tomorrow. Bye.